Okay, it's Sunday. I wasn't going to do any podcast today because it's a day of rest. As was yesterday and the day before, but we don't need to get into that. My personal business is none of your concern. Besides, I have a dog they have to keep company, Francois Pierre. He loves to nap, and I don't like to leave him all alone because he has nightmares. But today I'm watching my Sunday shows, and Richard Carl was on there. I think that's his name. And he was interviewing this guy, Vance. And the questioning is just pitiful. In two areas in particular. Vance gets on there and he says, I was misunderstood when I talked about the cat ladies. The point I was trying to make is that the Democratic Party is not family friendly. And we Republicans, and I am family friendly. I support families, and that's what I meant by taking care of children, doing things that help people with children. Unlike the Democrats. Well, it's the Democrats that are doing something with it, because I don't have kids. One of the things that I don't like on a personal level is this so-called child tax credit, which is a lie. It's not a credit on your taxes. What it is it's welfare. People below a certain amount of money who have children that they probably shouldn't have had because they can't afford them in the first place, and they should have known that before they had them, not just once but multiple times, are supposed to get money given to them. That's not a tax credit. That's a handout to help them raise their children. And then they say, look, we've elevated all these children out of poverty. This is a Democrat saying, all these children out of poverty. And I'm like, yeah, it's easy. All you do is, you didn't leave, the children weren't in poverty. Their parents were in poverty. And you lifted them up by giving them money. What a great accomplishment. So I'm not real big on that. But it's at least the Democrats are the ones who are trying to assist people who are lower income brackets that have children they can't afford. It's the Democrats who are in favor of that. Republicans are constantly against it, and on that one, I tend to be on the side of the Republicans on that. Pardon me for not being as liberal as I'm supposed to be. But don't act like it's the Republicans trying to help out there. It's the Democrats. And Carl never once said to him, well, what are these programs that the Democrats are pushing which you think are anti-child? Other than abortion, which is, that's his big thing. Let's say, take abortion out of this issue. What is it the Democrats are doing? They're responsible for the child tax credit. The Republicans weren't. So that's certainly helping families with children. People with children get tax deductions for their children. That's why they often call them my little tax deduction. They get tax deductions already. That was the Democrats that put that through. What is it Mr. Carl should have said to him? Well, you keep saying that you're distinguishing your views from the Democrats' views because you favor supporting and helping families with children, and the Democrats don't. What is it? What are the Democratic policies that you contend are anti-child? Now, why didn't he ask that question? And it just screams out to be asked. Didn't ask that question at all. Then the other thing was, he says, this Vance comes back to the typical Republican talking point. Well, why aren't we talking about inflation and talking about this? And I'm waiting for Carl to say, okay, well, what is Donald Trump's proposed solution for dealing with inflation? Never once asked. I never heard anybody asking this guy or Donald Trump, what is your proposal for dealing with inflation? And I know what his proposal is. You know what his proposal is? 69% tariffs on Chinese products. And then he says, oh, but the Chinese will pay that. Americans won't pay it. Tariffs were the way we raised money before we had an income tax. Guess who was paying the tariff? We pay the tariff, just like any sales tax. It's a sales tax. What do you think would happen to prices of goods we get from China, particularly electronics, like, your big TV set? What do you think would happen to those if, on addition to the prices that China is charging to the retailer in the United States or the wholesaler, China now has to pay another 70% on top of that? You know who's going to pay that? You're going to pay that. So the price of that product will either go up or will stay the same, in which case the profit margin is not going to be enough, and they'll discontinue selling those products. One of the main reasons we have gone so long without inflation was because of cheap Chinese products. And that's his proposal. So why aren't they talking about that instead of complaining about Kamala Harris not going on to the TV and giving a press conference, and then I'm going to get out of here. So thankfully, you don't have to listen to the rest of this, although you will be tested on what I'm saying. And that is, well, she hasn't given a press conference. She's how terrible is a press conference. And I keep seeing all these Republicans on this. We want her to give a press conference. And I'm saying, well, if you want her to give her a press conference, that must mean you think that would benefit you, or you wouldn't be calling for her to do it. If you thought she'd get up there and give a press conference that would help you, you would be saying she shouldn't be giving press conferences. So it's the Republicans pushing for that, and there's a reason for it. She is, surging, and we all know what is going on. She's surging in the polls. She's surging in enthusiasm. She's surging in money. She's surging all over the place. So they're hoping desperately something will slow her down. And when every time you turn on the TV and you see Kamala Harris, she's in front of a huge crowd of adoring fans. If instead of that you saw her sitting across the room from some reporter or a couple of reporters asking her tough questions, and she's got to respond, and then the Republicans are going to chime right after, that's not the same image that you want to project to your prospective voters. It's great for Harris. Every time you turn on the TV, you see a huge adoring crowd. That's great for her. She doesn't need to do a press conference now. And the other thing is, and she will give a press conference eventually, but she doesn't have to do it now and interrupt her momentum. And the other thing is, the press says it. I hear these people saying, not just the press, but again, these Republicans, but also in the press, it's in the best interest of the country. The country demands it. Well, guess what? They didn't have press conferences when Jefferson ran for president or when Lincoln ran for president. They didn't have press conferences. Press conferences are not essential, and most of them are terrible. Did you see that press conference with Trump the other day? All it was just a rant session. Any question they asked him, he just ignored it completely and went off on a tear. It was not a press conference. It was an opportunity for him to give a speech. So she's not going to do that. She'll answer questions. But they want her to answer tough questions which will make her look bad. Because Republicans keep making these talking points. Well, she used to be against fracking, and now she's for it. Yeah, like nobody learns anything on the job. At the time, I couldn't understand why she was against fracking. She finally saw the light on that. That's great. People can change their opinions, and they should. That's different from lying about things. So she's going to give a press conference, but she doesn't need to do it. But the main thing is the press in this country is annoying as hell because they think they're important. This Jonathan Karl, instead of asking real questions, asked stupid questions with no follow-up. And he thinks he's doing a service for the country. Well, he's not doing a service for the country. He's doing a disservice. Because he allowed people like this guy Vance to just skirt past, throw out a platitude, throw out a slogan. Well, we should be talking about inflation. Inflation is bad. Never discussing their proposal for dealing with inflation, which would really cause inflation. And if it didn't cause inflation, it would cause a lack of demand for products, which could cause a recession. So it's just a horrible proposal. Any economist, if they put an economist on and say, what do you think about Donald Trump's proposal for inflation, would tell you the same thing I'm telling you. It's terrible. So they don't do anything. They just ask easy follow-up questions, and then the candidates just go off on whatever tangent they want to. And that's an essential service because you have to answer to the press because we, the press, we're the people. No, you're not the people. You're not the spokesman for the people, and you don't even do a good job asking questions for the people. So stop acting that you're all that important and all that. So she'll give a press conference when it's in her best interest, and for those of us who support the Democratic Party primarily for historical reasons, if nothing else, and like her and like this guy Walz a lot, but we don't want her to lose. We want her to win the election. And if that means she avoids a press conference between now and the election, so be it. That would be great. But she's not. She doesn't have to avoid them, and she won't. But she's going to wait probably till after the debates. And that's what her campaign has probably decided is the best strategy. And were I running her campaign, which for some reason I haven't been asked to, I would be doing the same thing. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye. And incidentally, I'm no spring chicken myself, but I still think I have plenty of energy. So it's not a question of how old you are. I think it's really a question of, do you elect a party?